Hey, this is Sasha, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Stocks. And today I'm going to share with you a little bit of insight from my upcoming book, Mindsets of a Master Trader. And we're really going to go into socializing about stocks, the psychology behind socializing stocks, at least a little brief insight behind it, and why it's pretty much useless most of the time. So I'm going to cover four main points here. We'll talk about my Facebook friends. We'll look at quantity versus quality. We'll take a look at introvert, ambivert, extrovert, and most conversations. So I hope that this will round things together for you to give you an insight of why discussing and talking about stocks is not really useful. So let's start with Facebook friends, and I'll just share with you the average or most people's Facebook friends, or the amount that they start collecting is, let's just say 500 plus, right? So as you start building and accumulating people, you know, that number might go to 700, and it just really just depends who you consider a Facebook friend. But the reality is that very few are going to be close relationships, whereas most of the Facebook friends are in the far distance. So they'll be kind of over here, and you have a very limited or few people that you're actually hanging out with, talking with, making good conversation with, discussing things in general about ideas, big picture concepts to take you to the next level, right? Many of them are just kind of connections that you've built over time. And it's just kind of like collecting trading cards and playing cards. So in either case, looking at this, it's kind of like quantity versus quality, which brings me to my next point, is that many people, as they go through Facebook or other things, they're looking at quantity versus quality. And when you look at the stock market, it's very similar, that for a lot of people, you know, you have to decide, hey, how many stocks am I going to own versus the quality of stock. So what is more important? Is it more important for you to have 10,000 Facebook friends, or to have 5 really close relationships, okay? Or even 1 close relationship, such as a significant other, a partner, maybe so that way you can have kids in the future. So again, you got to recognize what is more important, quantity versus quality. So as we look at the quantity of stocks, is it more important for you to have, let's say, a basket of 7,000 stocks in your portfolio? Maybe you want a basket of 2,000 stocks in your portfolio, the whole Russell 2000. Or is it more important for you to have just 5 really good investments? It could be partly the Russell 2000. It could be like a IWM. It could be partly, let's just say, 2 to 3 really good dividend paying stocks and maybe 1 speculative play. So now you're building kind of a portfolio. Or is it important to just own as many stocks as possible? Well, I think if we look at a spectrum again, well, here is tons of stocks, right, in your portfolio. If you have 500 there in your portfolio, it's probably a little too much, right? You know, most people would agree in that respect. But if you only have kind of a little amount, let's just say over here you have just kind of 1, well, maybe that's not enough. So you'll probably want to be somewhere in here, kind of a balance between you know, quantity and quality. So here would be maybe quality because you're having little, and here would be quantity where you're just trying to add up as much as possible. And this kind of goes in the spectrum of, hey, well, are you kind of an introvert, ambivert, extrovert, right? If you're looking at Facebook friends, for some people, hey, they want to be a little more active. They're extroverts. So maybe you're looking more at quantity or socializing more, right? Introverts, maybe a little bit more focused on the inside. Again, hey, I don't want that many. Could be falling somewhere in between, ambivert, right? So it's the same concept of the Facebook friends. How do these things kind of tie together? Could be more of your personality. And this is what brings me to my fourth and final point, is that conversations. So as we socialize and we look at socializing, many of the conversations that happen in news reports and just a lot of things that happen about the stock market are pretty much useless, right? With those Facebook friends, most of the conversations that you have with those 10,000 people, with those 700 people, is just general conversation. There's a famous phrase by Eleanor Roosevelt there that talking about people, events, and ideas, saying that, hey, great minds talk about ideas. Average minds talk about events, and small minds talk about people. So if you look at the lowest form of conversation, you're really just gossiping. So this is gossip. But this is what's juicy, right? You look at the news headlines, they're gossipy, right? They suck you in to say, hey, let's talk about people. Let's talk about the president, what's happening over here. Let's talk about this and that. But it sucks you in. We talk about people, right? If you look at those news reports as well, especially stock market channels, a lot of them are talking about people. And people in the stock market world is stocks, okay? Now, let me bring you back to this point of why when you're talking about stocks, you're really talking about people, is because it's a gossip form. It's a form to suck you in, to say, hey, this stock is hot. This is a sexy stock. Why is it sexy? It's sexy because, hey, they got this new product coming out. This is launching next week. The earnings are great. The CEO's got this going on. And it makes it interesting because we're gossiping about it. But that's not really great socializing. That's not a great conversation for you personally to help your portfolio, to take you to that next level. What will take you to the next level? Well, let's look at events. Okay, so as we start taking a look at events, we're looking at history, right? You look at history, the past, you look at kind of what's happened in the past, you're looking at what could happen in the future. So now you're talking about, hey, historical chart patterns maybe. You're talking about what could happen in the future. What do they have coming out? This is much better, right? So we look at this is much better because you're talking about, hey, what have they done in the past? How have they grown? And how are things evolving? These are events. So now you're looking at a perspective of time within the stock. That's much better. And what's the best form? Well, ideas. But you get very little of that on TV, news channels, and a lot of the reports that maybe have huge viewerships. Very few have ideas, right? If they do, it's a very small or limited amount. It might be a minute clip where, hey, this is what I would do in this situation. When we talk about ideas in the marketplace, right, we're talking about looking at a trade setup. Hey, here's a trade setup idea for you. This is how you manage it, okay? How you manage that setup. Very few times do you hear that on TV. Very few times do you hear that on those news reports. Right? They don't talk about ideas. How do we make things better? How do we make things better for education? How do we make things better so we have less poverty? That's not an idea. It's more of, hey, let's talk about people. Hey, this is what's going on. This is the gossip. Hey, our reading levels are low. Our kids are not educated. We're gossiping. We're gossiping events. This is what's happened, an explosion, all these different things that they're not taking you to the next level. But it's ideas, finding ideas of how you manage your trade. How do I do the trade setup? Okay, what would I do to take profits, or what would I do to take losses? Okay, what is that setup? What is that idea? What is that situation going to do for my portfolio and take me to the next level? So that's really what you want to focus on. But the majority of conversation is not about ideas. The majority of conversation in the stock market world is gossip, just like it is in 9 out of 10 news reports and channels. It's about people, which in our industry, if we look at stocks, it's about stocks. What's the hottest stock? Hey, what is the stock doing? Hey, there's a little gossip. Macy's is closing down 75 stores. Or JCPenney is opening up 3 stores. Urban Outfitters is closing 10 stores. And Sears is having more trouble. It's gossip about stocks, which is really the same concept of gossiping about people. Then you get to events, which is a little better because now you're looking at historical things. But finally, if you can get and find the ideas, which is often very rare, that is the best approach because that's where it takes your mindset to that higher level. Beyond that, you're just really looking at tons and tons of quantity, tons and tons of juice, gossip that sucks you in, talking about those hot things that's attractive that you can't avoid, but it really doesn't take you to that next level. It doesn't make you better in this space. All right, so thank you so much for joining me in this week's video. I hope it opened up your mind to really understand what's going on news feeds, these articles that really just suck you in on the socializing concept and really doesn't add as much value to your investment, knowledge, and take you to that next level. Now, we cover a lot of these kinds of concepts in my upcoming new book, Mindsets of a Master Trader. Go ahead, get on the newsletter list right there so you get notified when this book is set to release, along with some other goodies that are set to come in the future. Thanks again for joining me. And in the end, remember, do what you love, contribute to other people, but most importantly, live life abundantly. I'll see you in the next video.